Recently, I was joined by Eric Metaxas, who is a New York Times bestselling author. He's host of the Eric Metaxas radio show on TBN. Yes, it is a TV show called a radio show. Don't ask me why. In addition, he also does his radio program on the Salem Radio Network. His latest books are 7 More Men and the third in his colorful and very funny Donald series. This one's called Donald and the Fake News. Here's my conversation with Eric Metaxas. Eric, it's great to have you back on the show. Thank you for joining us for book number 3 in the Donald series. Did you think when you started this whole thing that there would be a series of Donald books going on?
I actually didn't. People love it because, look, these are humor books. They look like children's books, and they can function as children's books because they very simply lay out what is happening. What is the fake news? What is the resistance? Who is this caveman named Donald, and how come he's doing all these good things that never got done before? So it's a chance for those of us who appreciate this president to celebrate what he's doing with humor. And I think our side needs more humor. It's one of the reasons I love you. You joke. I think we need to joke and celebrate. A lot of times the left does that, but when they do it, they can do it in a very nasty way when it comes to politics. And this book, people use it as a kid's book because there's nothing nasty in it. It just is a fun way to celebrate who this president is and what it is that he's doing to remind us of the things that have made us great and will keep us, by God's grace, will keep us great.
You know, when the other 2 books came out, the first one, Draining the Swamp, the second one, Building the Wall, this one on fake news, you and I have talked about this before, that it kind of reminds me, at least, and I think you too, of the old Rocky and Bullwinkle cartoon series that I watched as a kid and thought it was just an innocent kid's cartoon. When I became an adult, I realized there's a great message in here. It's really put in a children's box, but the message is very relevant, very timely, and filled with some really funny satire.
Well, that's the whole point, is that adults will get the humor. I mean, there's a sorceress in here. In one version of the book, we had her going into a hair salon illegally, but we had to cut that out because of page length. But she's called Madam Miss Speaker. And she decides that the only way that they can win is to go negative. Being relentlessly negative is our only hope, she says. So they take everything that Donald says and they twist it. If he says the sky is blue, they say, well, how can he say that? He's so superficial. What about people who are living in a place where it's cloudy? Doesn't he care about those people? He's so mean. Well, no matter what he says, they twist it and twist it. And people begin to wonder, is this true? And so they go to Donald and they ask him, and he has to explain to them what is going on. He says, this is something called fake news. This is as a result of envy. He says, when people have nothing else to say, they have no argument, they've got to make stuff up. He says, before I became president, I was a very successful builder of caves. And some people resented my success. And they were very mean and they were very envious. And whenever you're succeeding, you're going to have people like that. And that's what's going on. And then there's a whole thing about a Russian salad dressing hoax. Somebody sees him in a deli ordering a Reuben sandwich with Russian dressing on it. And they say, we've got him. He's doing everything to help the Russian salad dressing company. So they launched this huge Russian salad dressing hoax. And there's a big investigation. And they find no evidence. But Madam Miss Speaker says, well, it doesn't matter because it's on your permanent record, always. And so it's kind of a retelling of what's been happening in this country. And even Trump, I should say Donald the caveman, he insists on an election. He says every 4 years we need to have an election. And the people say, no, we just want to keep you. He goes, no, we have to have a fair election. So they have a fair election, but they decide to do the thing that proponents of fake news and lies cannot bear. And that is simply to bomb them with the truth, to tell so much truth that they can't take it. And he has a clever way of doing it. He has these little blue birds that they kind of twitter. I don't know if that means anything to you, but he uses them to just launch truth over the heads of the mainstream fake media. And they just overwhelm the resistance. And the resistance, led by Madam Miss Speaker, they kind of crack up. Madam Miss Speaker, she's waving around the Constitution. At the end of this whole thing, she tears the Constitution into little pieces. Now, who can imagine a Speaker of the House tearing an important document into little pieces? That would never happen in reality. Of course, we know. But she tears Constitution into pieces and dances off a cliff, followed by the resistance, some of whom we will recognize as looking somewhat like Adam Schiff and somewhat like some of the other players. But that's purely coincidence, I assure you.
Well, we know it's going to be a big seller. I think it probably may be the best of the series so far, and so timely, so important. I hope people get it before the election.